Hey everyone, it's Bobby from Decoding here, and in this video I'll be showing you how to build a Django app that uses Celery, Redis and Celery Beat to process both scheduled and ad hoc tasks, right? So this will mean building a Django project, creating a user app and configuring, in this case, Gmail to send emails. We'll integrate Celery and then we'll create a scheduled job or task and an ad hoc task. Now that ad hoc task will be sending an email via Gmail to any user that signs up. Okay, but before we jump into the video, if this is the first time that you've visited Decoding, then please subscribe and click the bell so you're notified every time I add a video to the channel. Also, please like and add a comment to this video as it helps me steer the channel and I love the feedback. Also, if you want to support us, help me create videos quicker and of a better quality, then there's a link to my Patreon page and HBAR wallet in the description below. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So like I said in my last video, I will be creating a lot of written walkthrough tutorials for these videos moving forward. Not all of my videos will have one, but some of the more complex ones will. This one does. The link to the tutorial is in the description below, but if you want to just have a little look and peruse on my website of what tutorials I've got, then this is my homepage, is digcoding.com. Click on tutorials, so it's /tutorials, and then we've got a basic Django list view, right, with PageNation. So there's only one in there currently. It depends when you're watching this. But I click on the Schedule Jobs in Django video. Okay, and the slug is Schedule Jobs in Django using Celery. Like I said, the link to this is in the description below. Scroll down, and this is the walkthrough. Click on this video here, and you'll be watching what I'm actually recording right now. Okay, so you can watch the video, or you can go through step by step on the web page. Depends what your preference is in terms of learning, right? So just have a little look and work out what's best for you. But this tutorial, what we're doing, we are using Celery, Redis and Celery Beat to process tasks in a Django app. Why would you want to do this? Well, most modern apps run multiple long processes or jobs just to function. Running these jobs in a normal kind of request response or a view or a function will slow these apps down enormously. You can imagine if you're a user and you visit a website and you sign up, you want an email sent to you that's outside of the app, because if it's processed while you're signing up, you might be sitting there with a loading symbol on the screen for far too long, especially if Gmail or whatever agent you're using to send the email is actually running slow for whatever reason on that particular day. So sign up, get redirected, and you can happily carry on with what you're trying to do on that particular web app and worry about that email being sent using a separate worker. And we'll be using Celery to do that in this tutorial. Now, I've done another video like this in the past using AP Scheduler. So it's doing a very similar task. It's using a worker to process a job or a task, but it's just going about it in a slightly different way. A link to that video is on the screen here. You can see it, okay? Don't want to read the tutorial? Click on this. It'll open up this video that I'm recording now. Now, the GitHub repository. So if you don't want to go through this and you just want to code and you want to tinker, then clone down a repository. You can do that here. So open up a Git terminal, copy the code, dump it in your terminal, and that will clone the repository in your development directory or whatever directory that the terminal is opened up in. So be my guest. The code that I'm working on right now will end up being a Git repository because it's not actually live yet. So the syllabus, we've already gone through that. We're going to be creating a Django project, a user app, configuring Gmail. We'll be then configuring and integrating Celery and then setting up some tasks. That's the syllabus. That's what we'll be plowing through. I am using Gmail, so you will need an app password. There's a link to a video here that will walk you through that process. It's nice and easy. Watch the video. Nice and easy. Happy days. You'll have one in a jiffy. Also, I'm using a Windows machine, and you will need Redis. So I used Ubuntu, and I downloaded that using Windows Store. But there's a video here from a gentleman on YouTube that walks you through the process of downloading Ubuntu and setting up Redis, because we need to set up a Redis server so we have access to Redis CLI. You will need that in this tutorial. So get that done, come back, and then we'll carry on. Assuming that you've done that, we will now set up a project directory in our development directory so we can actually start coding. So my development directory is users Bobby development. So we need to cd into that. So open up a command prompt. it opens up in Bobby. So I will CD, like I say, mine's called development. Yours might be called dev, right? So, or whatever you decided to call it. So you can click this. In this instance, I'm just going to copy it because sometimes you can have problems with CMDs. It doesn't always like copy and paste. So right click there. Hopefully you can see that. So I'm making a directory. I'm calling it did Django scheduled jobs v2. That is what the repo is going to be called on GitHub. I'm then CDing into it. Okay, and then what you can do to open up VS Code, other text editors or code editors are available. I used to use Sublime Text. I'm now using Visual Studio Code because you can do so much on it. It's all integrated and it's all on one screen. So you can have terminals, you can have your code, you've got your directory all on the left-hand side. So to open it up in this directory, you just need to put code space period or full stop. Depends where you are in the world. I'm in the UK, so it's full stop. Click that and it'll open up VS Code in that directory. Okay, so we've now got VS Code open. Did Django schedule jobs v2. Okay, brilliant. Let's go back onto, so what's that saying? No, bugger off. Okay, so this will open Visual Code. Open a new terminal in VS Code. Terminal, new terminal. Okay, it opens up a terminal at the bottom here. It depends what your settings are, but I have it at the bottom here. Just of default, it might open up a PowerShell. Depends what your settings are. I've got mine so that opens up on CMD or command prompt by default. But because I've got Ubuntu installed, I've got the option to open up Ubuntu, or I can just have a git bash. All depends. So a lot of flex with VS Code, but this has just opened up a command prompt. So let's create a directory that will be used for our Django project. I tend to set up my projects in this way because I Dockerize a lot of my projects. So I tend to either have this directory called app or backend. It depends how I'm feeling on the day. In this case, it's going to be called backend. So you can click copy. You don't have too many problems with VS Code with copy and paste. So right click and it will say make dir backend, and then it will CD into backend. Do that. You can see here we've got a new directory called backend. There's nothing else going on in there. Python's virtually env module provides support for creating lightweight virtual environments with their own site directories, optionally isolated from system site directories. So when we're installing libraries and requirements for this project, what you don't want to do, you don't want to be installing them globally on your machine. It's good to have a virtual environment that you can just download and install dependencies into that environment specific for the project. So to do that, I use Python virtual environment. So again, just copy the code, go into VS Code, dump it there. It looks like my code's got an extra space, but don't worry about that. So that we're calling Python, and then we're creating a virtual environment and we're calling it env. Okay. You see that because I was in backend. So it's created a virtual environment in backend there, which is exactly what we want. Let's go and have a look. So hang on, let's see if I make that a bit bigger. So let's have a look. I'm using OBS Studio so I can see what you're seeing. That's much better. Okay, sorry about that. We can now fire up, I might even do that for VS Code. We'll do that in a second. Don't worry, I'll make sure you can see all of the code. So we can now fire up this virtual environment, right? So you need to be in development. Django, I need to change that. Sorry, this is the first time I've gone through this. So this was called Django Celery, but I'll change that. Don't worry about that. So we need to be in the back end. We are already in the back end. So we can just copy this here. And the reason it's saying be in back end is because the command will be slightly different. So it would actually be, if you weren't in back end and if you were in the main directory there, it would be back end. Yeah, and that's how you would do it. But because we're actually in back end here, you can see that. That's the path that we're in. That's the command you use. So we're CDing into env and scripts, which is this one here. And then we've got a file there called activate. Okay. So then once we've CD'd into scripts, we then activate, and then we CD back out again. So that's what that command is doing. And you can see here, when you've got env in brackets at the start here, that's a great indication that the virtual environment is actually working. Okay. Oh, no, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. There we go. We'll have that there. My bad. Okay, so Django backend. So settings and URL conf. So go ahead and install the latest version of Django. So now that we've got we've got the virtual environment up and running, we can now use pip to install libraries into that virtual environment. So we will go ahead and pip install. That is quite annoying. I'll see if I can change that before you have a go. You can see here that we've now installed Django, or it's installing Django into the virtual environment. So that is exactly what it's doing. You can see it live on Virtual Studio Code, but we'll close scripts because we don't really need to see that. It might come up with this. It's just telling you to upgrade pip. Just copy what it says there and just upgrade your pip. It saves getting that all. You'll have that warning over and over again otherwise. Okay, done that. We need to take care of some initial setup, namely, says, well, we'll need to auto-generate some code that establishes a Django project, a collection of settings for an instance of Django. That's pulled straight from the Django website, including database configurations, Django-specific options, and application-specific settings, okay? So nice and easy. When Django is installed using pip install Django, we can then access Django admin, okay? So that's what this piece of code is doing. So we'll copy that, we'll dump that straight into our terminal. And what they're saying is Django admin, start project. Hang on, let's make that a little bit bigger for you. Let's see if I can make this. Oh, we're just done there, one sec. Open folder. There we go. Open up that terminal again. Just trying to make it a bit bigger for you. There we go. Sorry, my apologies. What I'll do, I'll fire up the virtual environment again. Sorry, CD backend, and then use it. Happy days. Right, okay. Now what we'll do is we will use Django admin. There we go. There we go. So that has now created a new Django project in our backend directory. So it comes with manage.py. And if you open this up, you've then got some, this is what I was talking about a moment ago. So these a collection of settings for an instance of Django, database, options, application-specific settings. Well, that is what all of this is. So we've got ASCII settings, URLs, and WSGI. Okay. So yeah, it's got backend, manage.py, and you've got all of this in there as well. Okay, so that is now correct. Our Django projects have some applications that are activated in the Django instance. Some of these applications make use of at least one database table. Okay, so what we need to do is migrate. So I've just put Python manage.py migrate. So we're calling Python because we've got Python installed on our machine. And then we're calling manage.py. And there's a method in there called migrate. Okay, so that migrates all of the database tables to the current database settings that we've got in settings.py. So in settings.py, we have got, if we scroll down, the database actually is just a SQLite3. So by doing that, it's actually created this file here, db SQLite3. Okay, we will be changing that. Will we? We might not actually. Come to think of it, in some projects I use PostgreSQL, but we'll just use that for now. It depends what the tutorial walks us through. At this point, it'll be great to double check that our project is running correctly. You can do this with the following command. So again, we're calling python manage.py and then we're running the server. Okay, so we'll copy that, go back in our terminal, dump that in there. So there we go, run server. And then we'll go ahead and do this. You can just hover over that, press Control and click on it, and that should open up. There we go. So that is the Django development kind of homepage. When this pops up, it's a good indication that your project is set up correctly. Okay, so we can close that. Actually, we'll keep it open. It doesn't really matter. Open up VS Code again, look back on our tutorial. So now that the server's running, visit that. With your web browser, you'll see a congratulations page with a rocket taking off. This means it worked, right? So you can stop a server from running in VS Code using Control C. So if you go in here, Control C, there you go. The server's no longer working. If you go back in here and update, it will crash. It won't like that because there's no server working. So you'll see this if ever that is the case. So it is good practice to create a requirements.txt file. A requirements.txt file is a file that lists all of the modules needed to make our project work. So far we have Django and a few supporting libraries installed. Okay, so we can now go ahead and create. I do this by creating a directory called requirements. And then I have a base txt, and that's kind of my core dependencies. And then I'll have a local txt for anything that I'm developing locally, and I might have a production one as well, because that stops me from having to install libraries that aren't necessary in a local or development environment, but I can then have them in a production environment. So that's why I do it. Copy this text, and it will create a requirements directory, cd into it, create a base.txt file, and then it will freeze. So we'll be using pip freeze. So that freezes all of, or that sends all of the libraries that we've got in our virtual environment, and it saves them into the base.txt file. So copied all that code, go back in here, paste it in, and it now creates the requirements and the base.txt. And if you look, this is what we've got. Okay, so we've got ASCII ref, got Django, got pytz, which is Python time zone, and then you've got SQL parse. Okay, so they're the libraries and supporting libraries that are required for this project currently. Okay, we're going to use a .env file in this project to store sensitive information such as database passwords and secret keys. Okay, so we'll use python.env, which is a great library, and this helps us do this. Let's go ahead and install it. So we will install a library, and then we'll freeze that to the base.txt file. So back in the terminal, paste it all across, and there you go. So it's installed python.env, and it's now in base text. So if I look in here, terminal process, terminated exit code. Oh, I don't know what's happened there. I had an error in my terminal. Interesting. So let's cd back into backend. I've never had that problem before. So fire up the virtual environment. So a cd env scripts. We want to activate, and then cd back to the original, and then we can go pip freeze requirements base.txt. There we go, worked that time. For some reason terminal crashed then. So with pip installed it, and then it has added it to the base env. So we now have availability of that library there. So we now need to create an env file. So you can copy cd. So we go back a directory. So we go back into here. In backend. No, we don't need to do that because we're already in there. We're already in backend. We want the env file to be in the same directory as the project itself. So there we go. Let's just create an env file. So that is the structure it needs to be here, right? Okay, so it's in backend. We don't want the env file to be outside of backend. So that's why we didn't do the CD. If the terminal didn't crash, we would have been in the right directory. So just follow along if yours doesn't. Add the following to the .env file. So we've got debug, production, secret key, and Django allowed hosts. Paste it in there. So debug equals 1. So it's just a boolean. So it's a 1 or 0. In the settings file, it's true or false. So we'll just keep it as an integer. So 1 means debug is true. 0 would be debug is false. In a production environment, you have it false because if it's true, then you will display sensitive information in the browser itself, which is not a good place to be. Production, we're in a development environment. You see why I've got that when we start getting a bit further in the project. Then we've got secret key. So it says add your secret key. You need to do is go into did Django scheduled job version 2 and then go into settings. And in here, you will find at the very top, you will find your secret key. It's here. Take that. You don't need the speech marks and you just save it there. Okay. And save. That's all you need to do with the env file. We now need to update our settings.py file. After making a note of your secret key, remove the secret key, debug, allowed hosts, and database variables. Okay? So we need to remove secret key, debug, and allowed hosts. We don't need them anymore. We do need base directory, but we don't need all that jargon at the top there, okay? But we don't need database. So remove that as well. Okay? So that's what I mean. When I say remove those variables, just remove them. You don't need them because we're about to dump some code in here. And then we want to add all of this. Okay, so copy. So we've got from pathlib import path. From .env, that's the library we just installed, import load.env. That's how we're loading the environment from that file we just created. We're importing the operating system, which is required. And then load.env. So that's the method that we call it. That's what brings in those variables, and we can then use them in the settings file. The base directory stays the same, and then we're creating a few variables and a database dictionary with all of the necessary information in there. So we just copied that by clicking this. If we go back in here, you just want everything above installed apps. Okay, paste. So we've got all of that in there now. So the base directory, secret key. So os.environ.get. We then got secret key. Debug, so it's int. So it's looking for debug in the env file and it's saying default is 0. So default is 0. That just means that if you're in a production environment and you forget to turn debug to false, then that will do that automatically, or if you don't have that setting in your env file. Production, we then got allowed hosts, then we've got the database, okay? So we are, these are the settings we're using, okay? So it defaults to SQLite anyway, so unless you're upgrading to Postgres, this is what we're using. So I can't remember if we're using that or not in this project. It was a long while ago when I put this together. So that is that part of the tutorial complete. Scroll down. This is another great time to double check that our project is still running correctly. You can do this by running the server again. Go at the bottom here. Run server. There we go. And if we open the browser up again and just refresh, there we go. Still working okay. Okay, so we're there, cooking on gas. Okay, now we need to change a few settings. So this again is settings.py. So there's a language code, a time zone. It's always good to change those to your local time zone. I am in the UK, so mine is Europe, London, ENGB. So go back into your settings file, scroll down. We've got a few settings that we can go through in more detail later, but change these two here. Okay, so paste those into there. Back into the tutorial. Okay, use it, update the static file variables with the following. Copy it all across. Scroll down, we've got this one here. Just save over that. Okay, so we've got a static files DIRs, which is a list. And then we've got a static URL, static root, media URL, and media root, because we will be using static files and media in this project. Okay, so they're the settings. that I use. Lastly, we need to add our static file settings to the URL conf. Open the project URL file. Okay, so it's backend, did Django schedules jobs v2 urls.py. So it's the URL conf, it's the main file. We will have more than one url.py file in a project. That's why I've put that. And we'll be replacing everything in that file with this code here. So we're bringing in, admin already comes in anyway, it's straight out the box. So is path, but we need include, we need settings, and we also need static. We leave the URL patterns as they are, and we add this bit here. So if settings.debug, then we add these. So if we're in debug mode, i.e. a development environment, we have 2 URL patterns added to this list. Else we just have 1. So if we're in production, we just have static. Okay, copy it across, go back into VS Code, navigate to this file here. So it's the main URL conf. We want to replace everything. So Control A, Control V, and that will dump everything in there. Control S to save it. Okay, you can see there by doing all of those, by saving it, it just restarts the server. Okay, I mean, you can always keep doubling back on here just to check that we've got stuff going on. See, it's now saying we've got a few problems. It's because we haven't wired it all in right just yet. So hold on. So creating a new application. So this basic app will feature an app that allows users to sign up. Each user will receive an email during the sign up process. This email will be sent using Celery via Gmail. It just says via Celery there. We'll be using Celery as a worker to send an email using Gmail. So use the following code in your terminal to start an app. So Python manage.py start app, and we'll be calling it users. Control C out of that. So you can see the virtual environment is up and running. We're in backend. So we have access to manage.py, start app. And that will add another directory here. Straight out the box as migrations, as an init, so with a dunder init file. You have admin, apps, models, tests, and views. We'll be going through each of them in a moment. We then have, you may have noticed already that the settings.py file has an installed apps list. This holds the names of all the Django apps that are activated in this project or in this Django instance. We need to add our new user app to the installed apps and let Django know that we're using it for this project. So we need to replace that whole thing with this here. You can copy it, or you can just manually go into settings.py, scroll to the top, which is here, and you can just do that, add users, okay? That's all I've done. Django now knows that the user's app is included in the project. So take a quick look at the directory structure before moving on. Okay, the only thing I haven't got in there is the .env file. I'll probably add that when you look at this, but this is the structure that we've got. It will mirror VS Code, okay? So we've got this directory, requirements, got users. You can see I haven't actually got requirements in there either. So I will add those. So models. Django will now include the user app in the project. Like I just said, we now need to create a model. A model is a single definitive source of information about your data. It contains the essential fields and behaviors of the data you're storing. Generally, each model maps to one single database table. Okay, so a model equals a database table. So we need to go into models.py file, and we'll add all of this code here. Users, models, Control A, Control V, Control S to save it. Okay, so let's just have a look. So we're importing a built-in user model. So from Django contrib auth models import user. So that's the built-in user model. Okay, that's why I love Django. You've got a lot of stuff built in. It's fantastic. We're then bringing in models. We're creating a model class called user profile. Now this extends, or it will extend, the built-in user model from Django. What I mean by that is we've got a one-to-one field. So each user that signs up will have one user profile. A user profile is a good way of storing data that is not really essential for the sign up. So sign up or authentication, you want username, password, first name, last name, email, that type of thing. A user profile I tend to use to store things like a bio, an avatar, just Boolean fields like is active or is a VIP, something like that. Or there's a whole bunch of fields that you can use in a user profile, and it just means that you haven't got to mess around with a built-in user model. You can just extend it, one-to-one field. And then we've got a Boolean, which is active. So meta class, so this just gives us a way of naming this profile as plural. So this is user profiles. So it pluralizes it, and we're going to order everything in user profile by the ID of the object itself. Okay, so that's the model. Okay, the idea here is to link the user profile with the Django's built-in user model, one-to-one field, blah, 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 blah. We've just gone through that. We will create the user profile using something called signals. So we need to create a signals.py file. So we create it using this command. So it's cd into the users app, and then we use echo to create signals.py. So back into our terminal, paste, and that will create a signals.py file. Great. We now need to copy all of this code into the signals file. Signals, I've got it open there. You can just press Control A to highlight everything, Control V to paste, and Control S to save. Okay, so we're bringing in post save. So after an object is saved, so post save, bringing in a user model. Once again, we need a receiver. So this is a decorator that we're using, it's called a receiver. And we're bringing in the user profile that we just created in models.py. So from dot, i.e. the directory we're currently in, we're bringing in models and we're importing user profile. So this little function here, we add a receiver, we pass through the post save. So after an object is saved, what object is it? Who is sending the signal? It's the user profile. So when the user is saved, that's what this receiver is picking up. It's picking up the signal. We then got a function. So we're defining a function called create profile. We pass through the sender, which we know is user, the instance, which is the object, or the instance is being created in the database, and then created. So it's is created. So it's a Boolean, yes or no, true or false. And then starts our keyword arguments. If created, so if true, what we then do is we create a variable called user profile, and then we call the user profile class dot objects, which is the manager, the default manager, dot create, so we create an object, and then the user equals instance. That's how we link the two, okay? That's all we need to do. We just need to now tell the app to use this signal when the app is up and running. And how we do that is scroll down. So I explained this just then, okay? All we need to do is go into our app.py file and add all of this code. App.py, it's there. Control A, Control V, Control S. All we've done, all we've changed is we've added this function. It's a ready function. So we're overwriting the ready function that's already there. You just can't see it. And we're adding import users.signals. So we're importing that file, users.signals. So that will now work as the user app is working. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat. Okay, back into the walkthrough. Let's commit our changes. Okay, so add the following to the terminal. So we're going to go back a directory. So we have access to the manage.py file. And we make migrations. So we're migrating our new user profile model to a migration file, and then we migrate that to the database. Okay, so we'll copy that, go in our terminal. You can see we're in the users, so we need to go back a directory. That's what the cd dot dot does. Okay, so cd dot dot, we've made the migrations. If you look in the user migrations, we've now got an initial py. So 0001 initial.py. So it's the first migration. And in that file, it's picking up the user profile. My terminal's just crashed out again. I don't know why it's doing that. I must have an error. It probably doesn't like because OBS Studio is running at the same time. So that is the migration. One of the reasons I love Django so much is that it comes with a great admin interface straight out of the box. It reads metadata from your model to provide a quick model-centric interface. Okay, that's the admin page. We'll look at that in a little while. We need to register our user profile to this app so we can access the user profile when we visit admin. So if we copy this, go into the user app again. So we want to open up the admin.py file, Control A, Control V, Control S. Okay. We're importing admin, we're importing the user profile, and then we're using the admin.register decorator, passing through user profile. So what that will do, that will register this class to the admin page. And the class is user profile admin, and we're on this, we're using a list display. So this will display these fields in admin. It'll all make sense when we look at it later. Forms. I'll have to fire a terminal up soon, but in fact, I'll have to do it now because we're going to be creating a forms.py file. So let's go ahead and do that. Terminal, new terminal. Want to CD into backend. Great. We don't need the virtual environment up and running just yet, but we will in a second. We'll do that. So CD in the user. So go back into the users directory, and then we're going to create a forms.py file. There we go. In users, we've now got forms.py. Okay. So we will be using Django forms. So now add the following code to the newly created forms.py file. So copy that. And we will dump that into forms.py, which is there. Save. Let's walk through what we're doing here a little bit. Oh, there you go. Password 1, that's incorrect. I'll need to change that. I do apologize. There's a few changes I need to do. Okay, so this all looks like it's working. I will just double check. Yeah, it looks like I've got it wrong. It doesn't matter. Okay, so we're bringing in a few built-in. So another good thing about Django, there's a lot of built-in bits and pieces, a lot of built-in classes, views, forms, authentication, admin pages. That's why I love Django. So, and what I love about the built-in stuff is that it takes a lot of the hard work out of creating things, so you can get a lot of output with very little input. So if I wasn't using the built-in user creation form, I would have to write that logic when somebody's signing up or signing in. Same with authentication. Those forms are already pre-built and pre-created so that we haven't got to do that. So if you want to have a look at the Django docs pages and just have a little read up on each of these. But they're fantastic. So that's what we're using. So our forms will inherit from those forms. So we're bringing in the user model, the built-in user model again, and we're importing forms. Okay, so user form. So this is the form that we'll be using to create a user. So we'll have a username, which we're actually going to be using an email address. There's 101 ways of doing this. I like to do it this way. Password 1, password 2. And then we have class meta. The model is, this is a model form. So we're using the built-in user model as the model. And then the fields that we're using are username, password 1, password 2. What am I doing there? Password 1. Hopefully that will work. We'll find out later. Okay. I did this test. I thought maybe it didn't work. Maybe I didn't fully test the app. Okay, so that's the user form. We've then got an auth form. So this will be using the built-in authentication form to handle user authentication. This is signing in. Okay, so username and password. The reason we've got these widgets is because this allows you to add classes. Because if your app has got certain CSS that you're using to render a pretty looking form, that's how we'll do it. You can use Crispy Form and Bootstrap and things, but this is the easiest way I've found. So use your own CSS. And this, again, model is user and the fields are username and password. So we've just got two model forms, the built-in model forms that we're using for signing up and signing in. Okay, they're the forms. Let's save, go back to our tutorial, scroll down, now the views. So we need to go into our views.py file. So we can now create a basic view. A view is a Python function that takes a web request and returns a web response. So the view is really what handles what you see in your browser. That combined with a URL. And the following code, add the following code to the views.py file. So we'll copy that, go back into this, go into views.py, Control A, Control V, Control S. What are we doing? We're bringing in redirect and reverse, which are pretty standard for views. We're bringing in generic. So there's a lot of views that Django has built in. They're all inside generic. So you've got a template view, which is a basic template view. It does all of the heavy lifting for the view. You can write these yourselves by having a class-based view. You can write them yourself by having a function-based view. But like I said, the built-in stuff that Django has straight out of the box does all of the heavy lifting for you. So I tend to use the built-in views. So within Django.views import generic, you've got access to template view, you've got access to form view, list view, detail view, okay? Which are all good views. They all inherit from template view as well. From .forms import user form and Auth Form. They're the forms we just created. We're then creating class-based views. So one's called signup view, generic.form view, because we're using a form. We've got a sign in view. It's another form view. We've then got a basic function-based view called sign out. And then we've got an account view, which is just a template view. Each of these require you to actually, they don't all require you to add a template name variable. But I tend to be explicit and say, actually, we're going to be using the template, which is in a directory called users, and it's going to be called signup.html. We'll create them soon enough, okay? But that is the views. They are the views. URLs. We now need to wire them up to the user app URLs. So we need to create urls.py. So echo, create urls.py. We're already in the users app. That's now created this url.py file. Open that up. Go back in here and we will create or add all of this code into that new file. So Control V, Control S. Okay, so we're importing path because we're using path in the URLs patterns from .import views. So from this user app, import the views file. And then we're adding our 4 views to our URLs pattern. So our app name is users. So we'll wire that into the URL comp file in a second. And that's important. We're calling this app users. You must have that. Patterns, path. So this is our home view. So this is our, you'll have digcoding.com or you'll have localhost 8000. This is the home view. There's no URL pattern after that. So this will be views.signup_view. .as view. You must have that on a class-based view. If it was a function-based view, you wouldn't have that. Name, home. So that's what we'll be referencing when we're using template tags that are with URL template tags. Okay, which you'll see soon. Path, sign in. We've got a sign in view, as view, sign in, and then we've got sign out. This is a function-based view, remember, so we don't need the as view. And then we've got account. So that's what we're doing there. That's the URLs. These are the URLs. So if we visit localhost port 8000 /sign in, that will be this view. That is what Django will render to the browser. Okay, we can now wire up the URLs to the project. So we go back into the main URL file. So copy that code back into the main URL file, which is this one. Control A, Control V, Control S. You can see now what we've done is we've wired this one up. Okay. So we're including, and this is how you add URLs that are specific to certain apps. You can have 20, 30, 40 apps in one project. I tend not to have that many, but you could have. You name each app and you wire those URLs specific to that app into your main project in this way. Okay, so we keep admin in there, but the users, the namespace users, remember, we've called it users. We add that we include them. So we use the include, which we've imported there. We include them in these URL patterns in that way. We've now wired in the URLs for the users app. Front end, so that's the back end, right? That's the back end. We now need templates. We now need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to make this all look good in a browser, because currently we haven't got anything. So the back end is more or less ready for Celery to be integrated. However, before we do that, we will need to create the front end. This means we need to create HTML files for each of the URLs. Furthermore, our project will be using CSS and JavaScript. This code will be stored in a directory called static. So let's make that. Remember, we had all this. That's the problem. So if we copy that code, so we want to go back in our terminal. We're in users. We don't want to be in there anymore. That's why we're using cd ... We go back a directory. Then we make a directory called static and we cd into it and we echo. So we create a main.css file. So if you look in our new directory, you've now got static. We should have a main.css file. Okay, it'll be empty. There won't be anything in there. But that's what we've just created. Go back in here. We now need to create and add all of this CSS into that file. We won't go through this. It's making the app look fancy pants. Just copy it all across and dump it in the CSS. This isn't a CSS tutorial. So Control A, Control V, Control S. If I now show you, this is all of the CSS. Cascading style sheet. This is what makes things look pretty or in your browser, okay? It's what gives your web page or your web app style. So I've got coloring, I've got different fonts and whatnot in there, okay? Scroll down on the tutorial. We now need some HTML. Let's begin with a base file that all of our other HTML files can extend. Add the following to your terminal. Copy. Again, you can click that, I'll just highlight it. So we're going back from the static directory and into the users directory. We're making a templates directory, CDing into it, and then we're making a directory called users and CDing into it. Now that is the syntax that you need to do in Django. That's how Django knows where templates are. So don't look too far into it. Read the docs if you need to. But you can have a templates file outside of users. So, but you need to wire that in slightly different. So let's go back into our terminal. We dump that code in here, and there we press enter, and we should now have a base HTML in a templates directory in users. There we go, templates, users, base HTML. Okay, that's what we've just done. You can now go ahead and add the following to the newly created base.html file, which it tells you where it is. Copy. Base HTML, Control A, V, and S. Okay. So this is a HTML file, but we're using Django template tags. Okay. So you might not recognize what all of this is, but the very, very first one that we're using is called a load template tags. So we are loading static. This gives us access to the static directories in this project. So it could be static, or in this case, it could be static files, which you'll get when you do the collect static command. But this HTML document, it's got a standard HTML. You've got a HTML element there. You've got a head element. You've got a body element. And then we've got the if template tag. So there's some logic that we can use in Django template tags. One of them is an if. So in Python, you would use if else. In template tags, you'd use if else also, because this is a Python library, right? So Django is a Python web framework. So it's very, very similar to what you would write in Python or in the Django code itself, but this is just the template language. So if not request, I won't do a deep dive, but you can access request due to the context processes in settings.py. Read up on it if you don't understand, but every HTML document in a Django project has access to the request itself. So this is how we can access the user. So if request.user is authenticated, so if the user is signed in and authenticated, then display this code, else display that code. That's what I'm doing. And then we've got a block template tag with content. This is what we use to extend elements in other HTML. Show you what I mean in a second. Okay, so that is the base HTML done. Let's add a HTML file for sign up. We're in the right directory because we need to be in templates users. Sorry, let's move that up. It's probably behind, it was behind my head. Paste. We've now got sign up. Copy that code for sign up. I seem to be plowing through this on my tutorial. I don't think this is necessary really for the understanding of what we're doing. Password one. Right, so it is worth noting actually that on my tutorial I did have this, it was incorrect. It was named wrong if you remember. I had one at the start. You can see that this will actually work because I'm naming password 1. So for some reason I named it wrong in the form. Please note that. Done that in there. Right, so we're using extends template tag. So this extends base HTML. And then we use block content. So this block will be injected and added into the block that we have in base. So we're looking base. This is that content. So all of the sign up block content will be added into the base block content. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how we can add things into different areas of HTML. And it's important to load certain things and have certain things in your HTML that are loaded at certain points, such as JavaScript libraries, because some have dependencies. So it's good to have blocks. So you can have JavaScript loaded or CSS loaded at a certain point in a template. So you can have more than one block. You can have block header, block footer. You can name them whatever you want. Excuse me. So this is the form. So we're just rendering a form. This is a sign up form. And because we're using a model form and we're using a form view, we can access the form using form. Okay. So that's one single form is called form. And we access the field with username. So username, password 1, password 2, and then we've got a button. Okay. And it is a form. Anyone who knows Django will notice a couple of things we need to change in this form, but we'll come back to that in a second. But that's the basic form, okay? Go back into the tutorial, scroll down. I think it's about time that we had a look at look at our work in the browser. So let's go back into the main directory and call run server. So we're going to have a virtual environment up and running for this. So cd back. Okay, cd back again. We will now cd into env scripts. I'm doing this because my virtual environment crashed for some reason. And activate cd. Okay, it's back up and running. And now we can, we don't need the cd stuff there, guys. We can access Python. Okay. Right, we've got an unapplied migration. So I will have to add that into the tutorial as well. Oh, that's right. It's because my terminal crashed, right? So I do apologize. Right. Clunky as ever, guys. Clunky as ever. So when my terminal crashed, what I didn't do is I didn't migrate. So I made the migrations, but I didn't migrate. So we will crash this with Control C and we'll go Python manage.py migrate. And that will now migrate the user profile that we created, remember, in the migrations. So if you remember here, I just migrated that to the database, okay? So that's why we had that error a moment ago. So we now can go Python manage.py run server. And now if we go back in our browser, click OK, happy days. Yeah? Looks good, right? Well, it's a sign-up form. It's got a little header at the top here. It's saying, please fill in the form to create an account, email, password, repeat password, sign up. Already have an account? It's got a link. That won't work. There we go. We haven't got a template, so that's why it don't work. Okay, so it's asking you to look at some bits and pieces here. I've just done that. So we now need a sign in HTML. So we're cding to the correct directory. We're creating account HTML and a sign in HTML. We'll crash out of this, Control C, add that code. And you can see now we are, if I move that up a bit, what we'll do is backend cd, is that right? So if we now paste that there, yeah, there we go. So we've now got account and we've now got sign in here. So we will copy the code that we've got in here. So the first one is for sign, add the following to sign up. That should say sign in. I do apologize. I'm having fun here, aren't I? There we go. Take that, sign in, Control, can go Control A, Control V and Control S. I just highlighted it. Scroll up and you can see here we're extending the base HTML again. Yeah, save, accounts, account HTML, copy that, Control V, Control S. We ain't got much going on in account, so but we are still loading static. You can now test each URL in the browser by going back to the main directory and firing up the server once again. There we have it. Now go back into here and upload. Right, okay, you should now have access to sign in. There you go, sign in, sign up, sign in. Happy days. You can click sign up. There's URLs. Actually, I'll just look at one of those URLs for you if you're not familiar. Sign up. Oh no, we'll look at base. Right, okay, so we're using a URL tag. So if you remember, we called the app users in URLs, and then we called a certain pattern, URL pattern, sign out. So if you go back into URLs, the syntax users, semicolon, sign out is users, semicolon, sign out. That's how we're referring to that. This URL is referring to views.signout. So the logic on that URL is linked to that function there. That's how it's working, okay? So it's all working, happy days. Let's take a quick look at the new file system. It is correct. Obviously I haven't got env in there and requirements, but forget that for a second. So we now need to add some logic. So our project is looking okay, but nothing really works. Let's wire up the forms and add some logic. Firstly, we need to make sure that the form submission is a post, and we need to add a CSRF token, okay, which is a hidden element. It adds a token to the form submission. It keeps the riffraff out. It just makes sure that form submission is done by you. We will also tell Django when a URL we are posting, or what URL we are posting it to. Update the sign in HTML with the following code. I've got these wrong. That needs to be sign up. I do apologize. Like I say, I've written this, I haven't gone through it. And look, it wouldn't be one of my videos if it wasn't clunky. So let's go into sign up. It's not sign in, it's a sign up. Highlight everything, dump the code in there. Okay. What's different? We've added method equals post, action equals /. So this is the home page, right? We've then used a Django template tag called CSRF token. It's a hidden element. It's a hidden input field with a token that is added to your cookie. That's how it knows that you are submitting the form. Everything else is about the same. I don't think there's anything else on there. No, there isn't. Add this to sign in. No, well, that's correct. So we'll copy that, go into sign in, Control A, Control V, Control S. Again, post action this time / sign in /. Okay, so that is a different URL that we're posting this form to. It's important that you add that. And again, we've got a token here. Okay, so that's the logic we're adding. Perfect. We now need to add some logic in our views. So in our views, we need to add some imports. So we need to import log out, log in, and authenticate. So these are Django built-in bits and pieces that we need. So it handles all the logic of somebody authenticating. So logging in, somebody signing out or logging out, and then authenticating somebody who's logging in. Okay, so we'll import that into views. We'll add that there. Okay, save. While we're at it, we'll also bring in some decorators. These decorators are really good. Okay, so because we're using VS Code, it's saying that we're not using these, so you don't necessarily need them, but we will need them in a second. So a decorator is something that we can add to a view. So by using that decorator, it will say you have to be logged in to view that view, see that view in the browser. If you're not, it will redirect you based on a setting that we'll have in settings in a few moments. And then we've got a method decorator. We need that for a class view, class-based view. Okay, so replace the sign up view with the following. Let's copy that. Sign up view, bang. So we're now referencing that template which we've created. Form is user form, success URL is account. So we're redirecting after this form submission, we're redirecting to account. Form valid. So if the form is valid, we're saving the form. Okay. Remember, we're using a built-in form, a model form. So by saving it, it's doing all of that logic that Django has already built in. We're then calling login. So we're logging that user in with the self.request and the new object. Okay, so that's how you use that method. And then we return super.formValid. So because this is a method in a class, that's how you return it. Save. We've then got the sign in view. Go into sign in and paste, save. Again, slightly different because we're doing different logic, right? So when this form is valid, we get the username and password, which we get clean data from the form, and we pass that through to authenticate. So username equals blah, password equals blah. And then if user is not none and user is active, then we log them in. So the reason we say is user active is because one piece of logic you could use is a user could be signed up, but marked as inactive until an email is verified. So that we use that in some apps, right? So somebody signs up, an email is sent. Until you click that verification email, you can't actually sign in. So that's why we have that logic. We're not doing that in this app. I just tend to, it's a kind of a hangover from a previous app. If all of that happens, then we log them in. If not, then the form is invalid. Oh, okay, and we pass through the form. Great. Now what? Now we add a logging decorator to the account view so that only authenticated users can view it. So let's copy that. Go to the bottom and we'll add that and save. Okay, so we have the method decorator when we pass through login required. So only authenticated users can see account view. So that's a good test. If we get to that point, we know that we've signed up or signed in correctly. This next part may seem a little overkill, but we're going to create a decorator. Okay, we don't want authenticated users to be able to see the sign in and sign up pages. It's kind of the flip or the reverse of, or the polar opposite of login required. This is a different decorator that we'll be calling login forbidden. So we'll cd into user and we will create, we'll crash this out of the terminal, Control C. We'll cd into user and we'll create a decorators py file, which is this here. We'll get our code, copy it, and we'll dump it into here and save. So what are we doing? Creating a so we're bringing in redirect, reverse, wraps, and settings. We're creating a decorator called login forbidden. And this is the convection. This is how you set it up. So if user is authenticated, then we redirect to the login redirect URL, which we haven't got in settings yet, but we will do. So this is just a way of saying, look, if you're authenticated, then, you know, by viewing sign in or sign up, you're redirected. Okay. So not really necessary, but I thought I'd have it anyway. Perfectly, we now need to wire that into the view. So let's bring in the actual decorator into views.py. Add that to the top. We then need to add that to the sign in and sign up. Oh, I've got it all in there. So you can replace sign in and sign up with all of that. Paste. What we're doing, yeah. So we now got a method decorator in each of these class-based views. Login forbidden. Same again for here. Login forbidden. Great. Okay. So now let's add some variables to settings. So we're referencing this in the decorator. That's why we need them. So login redirect goes to account. Login URL is sign in. So that's where you log in. Log out redirect goes to back to sign in also. So if we go back in our settings.py file, you can add this anywhere, but let's stick it at the bottom. We'll save. And then let's take a look at our directories. Again, double check. Let's just make sure that you've got it all set up correctly. Then test the application. So before we do anything, we will create a super user. So we'll cd back to the backend directory. We'll access manage.py and we'll create super user. And we'll use this one. So Python manage.py create super user. Sorry, let's go. It defaults to your username. You know what, we'll do that. Email address you don't need, but you will need a password. So dump a password in there. It won't show up. You'll think you're not pressing the buttons, but you are. There you go. It's created a super user successfully. The reason that's allowed us to do that is because we've migrated all the necessary installed apps. Okay, if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have been able to create a super user. We'll now fire up a server again, and we will do that by going there. That'll fire up the server, which we haven't in there. Go back in here and just update. It's working. Now what? We need to go to admin. Yeah, it's asking us to go to admin. Okay. Show image. I'll remove that when you're there. This isn't very image heavy. This is very much a walkthrough. So look, you can now visit /admin. Okay. So admin, it'll take you to the login. So this is where you would be putting Bobby and then the password that you selected. That will redirect you to the admin interface. This is what I love about Django. It's fantastic. So this is the authenticator. This is the built-in user model and the groups. So this is the user that we just signed up. This is me. Didn't give you the option to add first name, but you know, for giggles, let's just go ahead and do that. And put Bobby at didcoding.com. Okay, I'll open that back up again. Okay, so you can change your password here by clicking this form. This is saying that I'm active, I'm a staff user, I'm a super user. By creating a super user, that comes as default, but you can add loads of permissions in here. Okay, last login, date joined. That's the built-in user model that we extend in the user profile. So the signal that we wired up created a user profile, and default is false. There you go. That's interesting. We'll look at that in a second, but the user is Bobby. Okay, so that's what we're doing there. Go ahead and sign in and have a play by adding users and signing in and signing out. We won't do that. Now we need to wire in Celery, Redis, and Celery B. What is Celery and Redis? Well, Celery is a task queue implementation for Python web applications that uses asynchronously execute work outside of the HTTP request response. Remember, that's what I said at the start, right? So if you were going to run a job or a process in the normal HTTP request response cycle, it slows things down. Celery is best used in conjunction with a storage solution that is often referred to as a message broker. A common message broker used for Celery is Redis. That's what we're using. Okay, what is Celery B? Celery B is a scheduler. It kicks off tasks and a regular intervals. And let's go ahead and install the correct libraries. Okay, so we'll crash out the server. We'll add the following code into the terminal. So copy that. We will crash out our server with Control-C. And let's go here. Control-C, we're in users, we don't want to be there. We'll go in back end. Oh, here we go, CD. That was a bit of a silly thing to do there. Env scripts, activate, CD back to the main directory, and then we can use this. So we're pip installing some libraries whilst that's going ahead. So we're bringing in Celery, Redis, Django Celery B, and then Django Celery results. They're the libraries we need to do this. And then what we're doing, we're freezing all of that information into requirements base txt. So it's just gone ahead and done that. If we now go into requirements and base, you can see now we've got, for some reason it doesn't like that command. Let's go ahead, new terminal. I do apologize. Back end, cd env scripts, activate, and cd, go back, and we'll go pip freeze requirements, probably can't see that behind my head, base.txt. Okay, right, it's worked that time. Okay, so you can now see that our requirements file has grown significantly because these are all of the libraries and they're supporting libraries to make them work. So we've got celery, we've got click, we've got depreciated, we've got combo, Python date util, contab, Redis 6, right. All of this stuff is required to make this work. So by pip installing celery and those other like Redis and celery beat, you bring in all of that as well. Okay, we now need to add the bits to installed apps. So copy that, go into settings.py, go into installed apps at the top here, and we will replace it. So what we're bringing in, we're bringing in celery beat. Save. We've got a whole bunch of settings that we need that to work, celery to work correctly. Click that link there. It will open up a new tab. These are all of the different settings. Have a read, bit of bedtime reading for you. We won't go through them. I'm just going to add the settings that we need. So we'll copy all of this here and we'll dump that just underneath here. So we've got celery broker URL. Okay, so we've got these bits. We will need to add these to Env, although it does default to Redis. We'll add, I believe we're going to add some bits to the Env file in a second. Yeah, add in a time zone, a task scheduler. Okay, but this is everything we need to get this app up and running. Have a look at that link and have a read up on what all of these are. This is saying that actually, if a celery result backend is Django DB, which it will be, then we add Django celery results to the installed apps as well. Okay. So, are we adding anything? We are, look. So we're adding this to the Env file. So I was right. Env file, remember we created that, it's here. Okay, so it's saying if celery backend Django is equal to Django DB here, okay, it adds this to installed apps. So now installed apps has this, with celery results, okay? Celery needs to be wired up to our project's init file. This means this allows celery to automatically be imported when Django starts up. So add the following code to this file here, which is the main init file. So it's this one here. It's got nothing in it, but we need to add this code. So this will allow us to fire up celery when Django starts every time. So we can now go ahead and create a main celery file. Okay, this goes in our main directory. So can you see that? Probably not. Okay, let's create celery.py in there, and we need the following code in celery.py. Bang. And whilst I'm saving that, just to remind you, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and click the bell, and also like and comment on this video, as it's massively, massively helpful. Okay, so we'll create the celery.py file. Importing operating system, we're importing celery and time delta. We are bringing in the settings from the project. Okay, that's important. The app equals celery. These are all in the docs for celery, by the way. That's the name of the project. And then the config from objects. So this is what we're bringing in, the settings file, and the namespace is celery. App, which is this here. .conf.timezone is the time zone in which you want for you. I'm in the UK, I'm using Europe, London. We're then creating a dictionary of all of our scheduled tasks. And then we're using app.autodiscover tasks. This will look in any file in an installed app that is called tasks.py, and it will bring through all of those tasks. So we will create a tasks file for the email, and this autodiscover will activate that task essentially. That's what we're doing there. And we've got celery file. Okay, right. So in a real world app, you would use celery beat to make API calls, scrape websites, and send newsletters. All you would do is add the necessary code to any registered app task.py file, which I just said. That's what the auto-discover task is doing. So let's create a tasks.py file in our users app. Yeah, there we go. So we're going back, going into our users app, and then creating a tasks file. So if you look here, we've got tasks.py. and then we will add, see, there's a lot going on in here. So we will create that, dump it in there and save, okay. Interesting, one sec. Yeah, okay, that's just come up with an error, and that's come up with an error because when I was checking for spelling mistakes, it realized that was an error and actually broke it down into 3 words. Anyway, this is our task.py file, which is situated in our users app, and our users app is registered as an installed app in our Django project. So this will get picked up in the auto discover. We're bringing in settings, and we're bringing in a whole bunch of stuff that allows us to send an email. I'm not going to go into detail about the email sending itself. That's really not part of this tutorial, but it does work, and it does work for Gmail. So make sure that you are in Gmail for this app. You'll have to tweak a few settings if you're using something like Microsoft, Outlook. Okay, so from Celery, import shared task, from celery.utils.log, get task logger, and then we create a logger variable there for get task logger, okay, because we'll be logging, creating a logger for these tasks so we can actually view, make sure they're working. So decorator at shared tasks. This is called a 30-second function. So this function will be called every 30 seconds. Okay, so we should see that in our logger. Logger.info, I run every 30 seconds using Celery B. So that's what we will see, return done. Next, we've got a shared task. This is bind equals true. Def create email, and then we pass through self. We pass through user ID, which is an integer, and we pass through keyword arguments. Okay. Just notice we're passing through self. We probably don't even need that. We'll leave it in there. It's not hurting anyone. That's because it was probably a class-based view when I was tinkering around with it, and I just haven't changed it. Okay, so we're using user ID. We could be passing self through from the class itself. Anyway, we've got a try and accept. So user equals user objects, and we're getting it from the ID. We accept user does not exist, so we return failed. So the task we won't actually send an email if we're not passing through a user ID. We've got loads of variables coming from the keyword arguments. Don't necessarily need them. We're finding an email template. We're using that. We're passing through the host, the email password. So this is the app password, and then the display name. We'll add those to settings in a few seconds, and then we're using this to send the email itself. Again, it's outside of this tutorial, but it's we're creating loads of variables. We're adding them and injecting them into an email dynamically, and we're then sending that email using Gmail. And that's it. That is the task. So if we now go back into this, we have two functions, 30-second function. That's the schedule function, and the ad hoc function is sending the email. We now need to add all of this to settings. So this is what the tasks are looking for. Save. Okay, so email settings. So we have got email backend. So this is the backend we're using. Email host is Gmail. So it's smtp gmail.com. Email port 857. TLS true. You can have all of this in the environment variables if you like, but I've got it here. But we have got email host user, and we've got do not reply email password. Okay, so those, we'll also need to add these to the env file. One second. So we would need to add those to, yeah, sorry, the reason I'm looking at this. So what you'd now do is you go to env and you'd put your password. In this case, mine is bobby@didcoding.com, and your app password that comes from Gmail would be, yeah, and you'd save that. And if the app password was correct and it was all wired in correctly, you wouldn't have any problems. However, I've got mine saved in environment variables. So one second, because I can't remember what I called them. Okay, so we've got Google app password. So I'm looking at my other screen here. You know what? I'll go back. We'll have the email in there. It's the password that I want to change. So in my settings.py file, we will have email. Google app password. Okay, so that is in my environment variable, so that will pick up from that. Whereas you know, it's not in the .env file, so that should work. I hope. I did test this, it did work. Anyway, right, so we now need to bring in the task into our view. So views.py, because what we want to do, we want to fire off that email when somebody signs in. Make sure you're not using spaces or tabs, because it will tell you off. So that's now bringing in create email from .tasks. Now update the sign up view with this code. Sign up view. Save. So what we're now doing is we're logging in the user, and then we are using Celery to send the email. So create email, that's the function we just created, right? So this is key, .delay. Okay, if you don't have that, it just won't work. Okay, so the .delay will add that to the worker and send that via the queue. So if there's 10 in front of it, it will get sent, you know, after the 9th one. That's what the delay is doing. We're passing for the user ID. We need this, remember. We are then passing for the email account, so it's do not reply. Subject, thanks for signing up. Email is who we're sending it to, okay? And then we've got the CC, we haven't got anything in there. Template is hello.html. We haven't created that yet, but we will. That's the sign up. We now need to create that file. So we'll cd, using the terminal here, cd in the templates, we'll create hello. So now we should have hello in here, yeah. We add all of this to that file. Control A, Control V, Control S. So loading static, again, it's a HTML file. It is a HTML template. Hi, username, welcome to our site. You know, you could send a token, you could send a whole bunch of information, but we're only passing for a username because that's in the context. And then what do we do? Finally, we need to migrate the Celery models. Add the following to the terminal. So remember, we've added stuff to our installed app, so we now need to migrate that to the database. So cd in back two directories, and then so we can access manage.py. And then we're, by putting migrate, is adding all of these. Yeah, Django Celery, Celery beat, results. Okay. Take a quick look at the directory structure. We can do that, but we know it's okay. Finished. We should now be in a position to test everything. Before we do, we need to fire up a Redis server. Okay, so we need to open up a Ubuntu terminal and add the following. So I can do that in here. Okay, you probably can't see that. Let me move that. Is it behind my head? No, it's not. So we want Redis server. Right, that's worked. We now need another one. And on this one, we'll put Redis CLI. And we'll know if that works by adding ping. It should respond pong. There we go. That has worked. So Redis CLI is working. So open up another, so Redis server, Redis CLI. You can test this by adding ping. You should get pong as a response. Lastly, we need to fire up Celery workers. This is very easy. Go ahead and open up another terminal in VS Code and activate the virtual environment with the following. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Open up a new command prompt, fire up a virtual environment, which we've got. And then we need this. Is it going to work? Saying it's ready. We then need another one. do exactly the same. Virtual environment. And then we need another worker for Celery beat. Okay, this is the scheduled stuff. No module name decoding. What have I done there? Oh, that's right, because that's my old command. I do apologize. So this is did Django, what was it called? Did Django schedule jobs version 2. Schedule jobs v2. You can delete all of that decoding bit. Okay, and that looks like that's working as well. Finished. Let's check that our project is running correctly. We need to run a server. Have we got a server running? No, we haven't, but we can stick it in there. Now the server's on it. So we've got, what have we got happening here? We've got a server running here. So that's just a normal Django server. That allows us to access the project on port 8000. We've got Ubuntu. That's the Redis server. We've got a Redis CLI. Remember, this is working. It's working because you can put ping and get palm. We've then got a Celery worker, which is working here. And actually, you can see that it's already working correctly. Okay, so before we have a look in Django, you can see here that we've got that scheduled task running every 30 seconds. And when it works correctly, it should post in the terminal, I run every 30 seconds using Celery beat. Okay, so it's actually working. It's just done it again. I run every 30 seconds using Celery beat. We've got another one here. Now this is, that's the beat, that's the beat. Right, okay, now it's just the Celery worker. Okay, so we've got these all working. We've got the Celery workers working. We've also got our server running. We can now run the project or go into the project and actually test to see if an email is going to be sent. Moment of truth, right? So the only reason why it wouldn't really is if the app password is wrong. It should work. So now let's run the server. So if we go into here, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So the server's running. We're in the admin page, right? So users, it's all good. So I will sign up in a moment using Bobby at Decoding because it's important. We have to use an email for that. Task results, there we go. So because we are adding, because we added results, sorry, Celery results to the installed apps, it's got this here. Okay, so we've got task results. So this is our logger. It's actually logging the results from the tasks. So you can see every 30 seconds, success, success, success. Okay, it's working. You can imagine this could be newsletters run every day, every week, okay? But it will be logged here. We've then got periodic tasks. So if you look, okay, we've got here, Celery backup cleanup. That's default, that's in there anyway. But the scheduled task that we added was this one here, every 30 seconds, okay? So that's what's been added using Celery. Now, like I say, it would appear there and be logged here if it was, every week or every day. But that's how you'd add it. Okay, user profiles, nothing different there. So what we now need to do, before we log out actually, what we'll do, we'll try to go to the home page. Should redirect us. Okay, remember we've got that decorator. So it won't allow us to visit sign-in/either because we're already authenticated. Okay, but it will let us sign out. When we're signed out, we can now go in. And if you try to now access the admin page, it won't let you because you're no longer authenticated, right? So go back, update. So let's sign up. Okay, so Bobby at didcoding.com, password. Let's hope this works. Then sign up. There we go. So regardless of the email being sent, the function worked, the form worked. I know that because I can only actually access the accounts page if I'm authenticated. So the form was processed. Django took the form data, created an account, created a user profile, and then redirected me to account. And it was very quick, right? Now, I should have had an email sent, but we will, I'll sign out because it's not a super user. So let's go to admin and see what happened. Bobby, this is my super user account, it's the one that we created. Task results. Well, everything's a success, right? So apparently the email was sent, okay? So it's this one here. So if I now go into my emails, there we go, it's going to ask me for, thanks for signing up. There we go, it worked. Happy days. So hi, Bobby at decoding.com, welcome to our site. So that worked very, very nicely. Obviously the walkthrough, I now need to go through that and change some of the wording because some of it was incorrect, but the walkthrough on the website actually works. So if I now just go back, there we go. Happy days. Right, so I'm really, really happy with that. So to summarize what we've done, or actually the conclusion, this is a basic Django app that uses Celery to manage tasks to avoid slowing down our app. We are also running tasks on a regular schedule using Celery Beat. So this is really, really helpful. I mean, what I would normally do is I would now Dockerize the project and I would get all of that functionality and logic all within a Docker container, and I would deploy it using Docker because, you know, having all of those different Celery workers running and Ubuntu and Redis servers is a pain in the bum. But if you're using Docker, you can just add that into your Docker file, and it all gets, you know, use images and what have you, and it all gets run automatically. It's fantastic. So maybe I can do a video about that later. But thank you very much for watching. Before I close this off, I will say, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, click the bell so you're notified, and also like and comment this video. Bit clunky, I know, it always is, but I love doing this. It's always fun. And if you want to support me so that these videos can get of a better quality and done quicker, then send some HBAR or become a Patreon. So thank you very much for watching. I've enjoyed creating it. I hope this has been of value to you. Like I say, give me a comment and let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll be seeing you very soon. Bye bye.